everyone. Welcome back to Hometown Friends. My guest today is Rich Stroud. This episode, again, is one of my personal hometown friends. Rich was my best friend at a very important time in my life, and we're about to share our friendship story with you, with vivid memories of the way we helped each other navigate, survive, and thrive in our youth. We have different memories of how we met, and he reminds me of a fist fight that I totally forgot about. I think you'll also enjoy hearing him tell the story of our triumphant reconciliation. Rich goes on to share how he was able to achieve his dream to become a B-Town Hooper by making the varsity basketball team in high school, and how he learned to be a basketball coach from the legendary coach Eugene Nakamura. And this is also a sad story, as Rich recalls the day he became an addict in his senior year in high school. His life after that was fraught with relapse and recovery. With this came the loss of relationship with pretty much all his family and friends because of his addiction to methamphetamines. This was a heartbreaking interview for me because this guy and his family were so crucial to my secure attachment to my community, and I was the friend that he started drinking with. At the same time, this discussion left me uplifted and hopeful that no matter what path hometown friends take, there's always a way back to each other. I hope you enjoy my discussion with my man, Rich Stroud. Rich Stroud, welcome to the Hometown Friends podcast. I am so honored to have you talk to me today. I'll just tell my story a little bit about, I don't remember actually how we met. I think we met on the bus in fourth grade. Our friendship started quickly and developed very intensely to a place where we spent, I think, about 3 or 4 years extremely integrated into each other's lives. I was at your house pretty much every day after school. Yeah. We played every day. I didn't want to go home. I stayed there as long as I could. I stayed over every night I could. I literally spent probably more nights at your house during those times than I feel like I spent at my own. It's possibly not true, but the way I feel about it was I felt wanting to be at your house way more than wanting to be with my own mother. And you literally had a white picket fence.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah. And a magnolia tree.
Yeah. And I have so many memories of being at your home, being with your family, being with you, and the intensity of our adolescent relationship blows my mind when I think about it. I do not know where I would be in my life without the friendship that you gave to me, and I'm so appreciative of it. And so thus I knew that doing a project on friendship and hometown friends, and specifically, would find my way back to you, even though we haven't had a conversation for 40 years.
You're wrong about how we met, man.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us.
So I was in England in fourth grade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so my dad was on sabbatical in Cambridge, and so I went to school with my sister in Cambridge that year. But then we came back.
And your dad, remind everybody, your dad was a famous archaeologist, correct?
Yeah, he was a classics professor at UC Berkeley, and he was the chairman of the Department of Classics. So he taught Greek and Latin, ancient Greek and ancient Latin, but he also was archaeologist in Greece. So we went on sabbatical every 4 years, right? We spent a year in Greece. We spent a lot of time in Greece growing up, and then we spent that year in England. And, I went to the King's College School for Boys and Girls, man, in Cambridge, England, where I wore like, short pants, and I had a little purple beanie, and I wore a blazer and shit. And then I come from that to Malcolm X Elementary in Berkeley, California in the 70s. It couldn't have been any more of like a cultural shock, Granted,
totally.
School earlier on in Berkeley, but you coming into that part of elementary school, especially in the 70s, man, kids were like grown up, man, in 5th and 6th grade. And that year in 5th grade in Malcolm X, it was rough, man. That school was rough. There were straight killers, man. That's the first time I saw a gun, But my best friend at that time was Brad Hart, right? He lived right behind me. And you were in a different class, but Brad and I were in the same class in 5th grade. And then 6th grade, I wasn't. I wasn't in the same class as Brad. I was in Miss Mathis's class in 6th grade, and you were in Miss Harris's class, right? Yeah.
Nice. Good call.
And so, for all the crazy stuff I've done in my life, I got a pretty good memory. And I remember Miss Mathis's class and Miss Harris, usually classes had like partner classes, and we would switch between. And so Miss Harris was Miss Mathis's partner class. And so we would do like PE together, and sometimes mix classes together. So I knew who you were because I knew you were friends with Brian Curry.
A whole other chapter.
Brian's a big part of my life too growing up, man. He was like a hero. He was like that cool cat,
Very.
I remember you were friends with Brian, and I would play football and strike out with Brian often because he was on the same baseball team as Brad. He was on Pacific Supply, who was Simon Thaler's dad, right? So, occasionally maybe play strikeout together or something like that. But what I kind of remember our friendship really, really starting is we went to opening night of the A's baseball season in 6th grade. Because Brad was like, I want to go. And I had never been to like a baseball game by myself as a kid, and it seemed like you had, and it seemed like Brad had gone with his homies before. And I was like, okay, I got to convince my parents to let me go. I remember we bought tickets, and the 3 of us went. And dude, I remember it vividly because we got good seats on the first deck. And Ricky Henderson, that wasn't his debut because he had played at the end of the year before. But that was like his coming out party. And I can't remember who they were playing, honestly. But I remember the visual images of that game because some of my earliest memories in my life are A's games. And I remember... So after that, the timing was perfect for our friendship in that regard because I had always, Brad had been my best friend since I was like in nursery school because he lived right behind me, right? His parents were divorced, and he lived in the house right behind us, which was like a boarding house, right? And
oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I worked a lot, and he was forming a friendship. He formed a friendship with Tony Woods while I was gone in England. And that friendship kind of he shifted more towards Tony Woods. And so when the 3 of us hung out, me, Tony, and Brad, I became the target.
Yes.
Those 3,
Yes.
Both those guys are kind of alpha males. Right.
Oh, but they were huge. They were big people. They were just bigger than everybody.
Yeah, they were bigger. They were like man-child, both of them, right?
They really were.
And all the girls loved them.
Sure, they sure did.
They were good with the girls. They didn't freak out, and I was like, and there were reasons why I had that anxiety, which I dealt with later on, which was really helpful in my life. But, and so the fact that you were there, and I was like, hey, this guy's kind of cool. He's fun. He knows a lot about Berkeley, right? You knew a lot about Berkeley independently, and that I had missed out on in that formative first year of Malcolm X. Because I felt like I was behind everybody, man. I was like, I know everybody, but I haven't learned how to act. Like, man, when I first came to Malcolm X, I would sit with my legs crossed.
Wow.
And this girl, Tamara, she was like, dude, you can't sit like that. Guys don't sit like that. Wow. Like, it's not in England, but I didn't know all these cultural things, and you were like, Brad would just like cap on me if I did that shit. But you would like explain shit. I remember you took me, not long after that, you took me down to, what was it? Carolina's Pizza or whatever on Durant Square.
Wow.
And you took me to, and you said, this is how let's go get pizza. Let's go to Top Dog together. Let's go to Carolina's Pizza together in Durant Square. And you showed me how to fold a slice of pizza. And I was like, this dude, he's pretty cool. He knows the same people that I know, but he's done a lot of stuff. Like, I'd never been to Silver Ball before. You took me to Silver Ball for the first time.
Wow.
And,
a little
like
grommet on the street helping you become a more grommety person.
Exactly, man. 'Cause, you know, like you said, I come from the guy with the picket fence, you know, and I was like strictly my little Elmwood, Claremont area. You know, I hadn't ventured out of that. Yeah, I walked down College Avenue for sure. I knew that was my hood. But man, anything further down from college, that was like danger zone.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
But you were like, and I never knew any of the, what was it, Smythe? I didn't know any of that area.
Yeah.
There.
We lived in student housing, walking distance from your picket fenced house, but definitely a whole different environment.
Walking distance if it's during the day, but when the school for the blind closed down and it was nighttime, it was time to run through there, man.
Yes, I do remember very well. There's some dark corners in that place.
Oh, yeah. I remember you would run home.
Yeah. It was
nighttime. You would run through there.
Yeah, you're absolutely. I totally forgot about that. But I remember. First of all, I remember the blind school. The deaf and blind students would actually not be happy that we were moving through their location, their school. So sometimes they would even chase us, and it was a bit scary when we were kids because it was the deaf kids who would like kind of yell, and they were loud, you know, and you know they were adolescents too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool environment to grow up around. I learned a lot about kids with disabilities.
We spent a lot of time in that whole location kind of navigating that space between my home up on the hill and these sort of public housing and you in the sort of a little bit flatter with this picket fenced house and
a nice neighborhood. Super nice.
Amazing. Yeah.
I was really lucky in that regard. Yeah.
So that's so interesting that you have me as this person who helped you navigate this wider world. I actually had no idea about that.
Oh, totally, man. You know, there was a level of, in our peer group at least, a level of necessity of coolness.
Yep.
So, you know, you had to be cool.
Yeah, Don't be too appreciative. Like,
you don't want to be a gump.
Yeah. Right? Nice. The gump.
No.
Yeah.
Be a gump, you know.
Totally. Well, that's the doing the dozens, right? That's the adolescent boy male energy is like, don't step out of line. Either you got to be super funny and everybody's paying attention to you, or fade into the background and don't get teased, right? Or if you get teased, you got to figure out you got to either go on the offensive, or what I did, Rich, was learn. I was fat, and this is a whole other thing, man. You didn't judge me for being fat, man. You were my best friend, dude. You were my homie. God, to have someone navigating the world when I felt so scared to be teased, like you're just bringing up all these memories of these alpha males, you know, looking for marks, looking for a person to get on. And I got it, man. I got it in spades because I was fat. I mean, I was the fat kid, you know, and but having you with me, I think two things happened. First of all, I was able to navigate spaces and know I had one person who had my back and who liked me and wasn't judging me. And two, I learned how to fucking laugh at myself. I learned how to laugh when I got teased. But the best compliment that I ever got, or that one of them, is I was sitting around the table with my kids and they're teasing me, and my son says, "You know what I really like about you, Dad? You can laugh at yourself. We tease you, we give you hella shit, but you just laugh." And I remember thinking, how I learned that is because that was a survival tactic, is to laugh at myself and take away their power.
Well, it was mutual. It wasn't like, it's just like, you know, let's put it bluntly, I was very socially awkward, right? And I didn't know why for a long time. And I've been lucky enough, through a lot of other people's help, to understand why I was. And that's kind of a dark thing, and I had a lot of help to deal with it, right? And I didn't know why for a long time, and I finally admitted to myself why I was. And
are you willing?
Well, I had some childhood trauma, right? And I never told anybody about it. And I took on a lot of guilt about it, not just for myself, but it also involved other people. And I felt as if I was never, I didn't stand up for the other people.
Wow.
I didn't stand up for myself, right?
Wow.
I felt partially responsible about what happened to somebody else. And I held that in. And so whenever that came up, I had a wall, I had a wall around me, right?
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
Right? I always did. And so it created problems, man, especially dealing with girls, dealing in a social area that I wasn't like already enmeshed in, right? And dude, you had no problem, dude. You were like, go to this person, do this person, and you were friends with people that I either was acquaintances with or I wanted to be friends with. And so you helped me tremendously incorporate myself into that kind of social scene, man, because I never would have had the balls to do it myself because I had so much anxiety about who I was and what I had been involved with. And I've been lucky enough through a lot of help from other people to understand why that is, and with some EMDR therapy, which was tremendous for me. It was life-changing for me. Yeah. That's really, I've come to understand it, and that anxiety that's produced when I think about that trauma is alleviated. It's like, I liken it to when you turn the TV off and it goes like that. Yeah. I can think about my childhood trauma now, and I can understand it, but I can turn it off, and it doesn't have that anxiety creating in me. But that wasn't the case when I was a kid, when I was a young, grown-up boy. And so what I gave to you, it was a perfect, mesh, because what I gave to you, you gave back to me. So what I lacked, you helped, and what you lacked, I helped. Wow. And that's so rare for young men. And when it does happen for young men, especially at that age, it creates something that is unique. Women can have that too in certain situations, but it's unique to young men. And in the environment that we grew up in, it could be rough, dude. Yes. It was the big wide world. Same era that we grew up in. Now, we were hella lucky, because the diversity that we grew up in and the experiences that we got to experience that kids don't get to experience now, we were super lucky. But man, there were risks involved, both emotional and physical. I know lots of people who still hold the scars of those risks that failed and didn't have friends like you and I did, right? Yeah. So the ability that the perfect timing and every time I think of this word, I think of you, synchronicity, I love that. Because that's, we saw Synchronicity tour, man, a Day of the Green, right? We did. That was so fun. That was hella fun. That was a great concert. I still tell people that I saw the Police. The Police, Day on the Green, together, Synchronicity concert. We could not have been so more hyped to go to that concert. It was awesome, dude. It was. I love the fact, Rich, that we complemented each other somehow. I was looking for stability, safety, sense of belonging, and you were looking for the same thing in a different form, and that we were able to give that to each other at a very important time in our lives. It's unique because it's cool because we like the same shit, though. Yes. We like sports. Yep. We were interested. We enjoyed, a lot of young men don't like talking, but we both like talking. We both like having conversations with each other. So I think that was a big reason why we hit it off as friends too. Because a lot of, I'm sure you had friends who didn't like to talk about shit. I can't imagine you and Brian Curry having the same conversation.
Oh, no. No. We were just doing knucklehead shit.
I imagine having the same conversation with Brad that I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there is something maybe just at the core of the kind of people we found each other and dropped in to having more intimacy, if you will,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
in our conversations. And of course, it was just about all the stuff we were interested in. We loved football. I'm wearing my Atlanta Falcon hat. You were a Dallas Cowboys fan. You are. Yes, of course you are. Yeah. just like I'm wearing my Atlanta Falcons hat because I was from Atlanta. I don't even know. How the hell did you become? I forgot how you became a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Okay, so I came back. I tell this story all the time. I came back from England in 4th grade, right? And I wasn't really much into football before I went to England, but came back from England, and Dallas had won the Super Bowl while I was gone, right?
Yes.
My house, man, color TV, no, right? So I remember I was hanging out with Brad, and we went back to his house, and it was the opener of Monday Night Football. And it was Dallas against the Redskins.
Yes.
Sat down and watched it on his mom's color TV.
Nice.
And Howard Cosell comes on, and he's doing that pregame, dun dun dun, right? And I'm seeing Roger Staubach, and there's his highlights, and I'm like, wow, this guy is like Superman, right?
Totally.
And so seeing them on the color TV with Howard Cosell, Monday Night Football, it blew my mind, man.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my shit. I love baseball, and basketball I hadn't fallen in love with it yet, but I fell in love with football in that moment. And within like 3 weeks, I was getting the Dallas Cowboy Weekly. Yeah, I was like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
All in. This guy is my new hero. I've got Claudio Washington, and I've got Roger Staubach.
Shout out Claudio Washington.
Claudio from the High, man.
From B-Town High and a Oakland A.
Yeah.
And then
many other teams too. Along with the Braves. Yeah.
That's right. Claudio Washington. I remember you teaching me about him and that he came from Berkeley High. That I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And that we were sports fans, man. We just talked about sports. We lived sports. We played football at Monkey Island every day. It was tackle football. That was the one thing I could actually do because I was big. Yeah. And so I could carry that football and run it and just, break tackles because I was big. I was heavy.
Yeah, and you could catch my passes, man.
You were a great Roger Staubach incarnate.
And we had our special pattern where I would roll out to the right, and you would go down maybe 5 or 10 yards, fake into the middle, and cut out to the side, man. And that was our pattern.
That's right. We had the out pattern, whatever that's called.
Okay, so here's my story, dude. It goes with that. Maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit. We had that fight, right?
What fight?
So we went to the movies with your mom.
Okay.
Right? And we went to the Piedmont Theater.
Oh, shit.
And afterwards, it's at night, and we're walking down the street, and we're a little bit ahead of your mom. And you're saying something, you're capping. You're capping just a little bit, right?
Wow.
And then it's friendly, right?
Uh-huh.
And for some reason, you do some kind of movement where you're like whizzing by my face, right? And by total mistake, right, you hit me in my nose. And I wouldn't let it go. I felt like, how dare he hit me, and he doesn't really feel sorry that he hit me. And I was just like super petty about it. And so I was determined that I'm going to get you back. So you hit me, I got hit you. I hit you, and next thing I know, we're going at it.
Right.
On Piedmont Avenue.
On Piedmont Avenue. I'm just remembering this. God.
I would say in front of the Carey house. That's about where it was, right? And your mom's like still up the block and doesn't know what's happening, right? And we go at it. It's like a little cloud of dust.
A little flurry.
Yeah, maybe 30 seconds a minute, right? And then she comes down and she's like, what's going on? And we're both like, nothing. And the ride home is silent. And not shortly after that, my mom bought me like a derby jacket, and
You had the real one too.
Hell yeah, mom's came through, and that was like a big deal because mom didn't buy me any new clothes.
Right.
I was a hand-me-down kid. I wore Michigan shit because one family member and then another.
Wow.
And she bought me a derby jacket, and I lost it.
Okay.
She's like, okay, I'll buy you another one, and I lost that one too, right? And I hid it from my mom. And I remember not long after the little scuffle, you totally innocuously, when you were at my house, you said, oh, did you find your jacket? To me, while my mom was in the room.
Oh, shit. I threw you under the bus.
You totally threw me under the bus. It wasn't your fault, man. I hadn't told you not to tell my parents. You know, you didn't know all the lies that I was telling my parents because I was telling a few. And I got so pissed at you. And I was like, fuck, man. Enough with this dude. You know? I was like, he's fucking me over. I don't know why, you know, and we had that falling out, man. And it lasted a little while.
Dude, I totally did not remember. I actually like completely spaced how we lost our connection.
With that fight. And then not long after was the derby situation. And then I, without explanation, with no kind of shit, I just was like, I gave you the cold shoulder.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fucked up. No doubt about it. It was fucked up. And you'd be like, what's going on? I was like, nothing, you know, like that.
Yeah.
And I, without question, avoided you at school.
First of all, I just forgot about that whole time period. I forget that the interesting part is that you're really remembering. It's almost like you feel a little bad about it because I actually thought I was the one who broke up with you. But I think you broke up with me.
No, and I remember how it came together back where everything was cool. You remember those football games we used to play at like Kleberger and Underhill?
Tackle football, by the way.
Tackle football on like a holiday, right?
Yep.
And we set up the teams.
Yep.
Darren and Andrew and all those guys would set up the teams and stuff like that. I was a bit of a bully on those games. A bit of a bully. You know, it's not like I was hella bigger than everybody or anything like that. I was a little bit bigger. My growth spurt a little earlier. I wasn't like Brad or Tony, but I was bigger than that group, right? And I remember there was a fourth down. We were on the same team, and it was kind of earlier in the game, right? And there was a fourth down, and we needed a completion to get a first down. Because remember, it was like 2 completions for a first down or whatever like that, right? Or 2 or 3, right? You remember?
Totally.
And you looked at me, and you said, let's do the play. Let's do the play. And I was like, I know we'll get it because ain't nobody can ever stop that fucking play, right? And we did it, and you caught it, and you were wearing that fucking California, that baseball shirt, right, with the gray and then the blue sleeves.
Wow, I do.
Yeah, and you caught that shit, and it was on. It was over. That was it. The French was back on, full swing. And, we had that period. But the thing is, during that period, we both grew individually. And I think it was kind of a good thing because we were so like Chana Rich, you know? Yeah. I think we were a little bit limiting ourselves as far as meeting other people.
I think that's true. And we had each other. We didn't need anybody else at that point. Or we had that intensity. We were brothers, man. We were each other's number ones.
But you met like guys like Roger and Marco.
Yep.
And
Miles.
Yeah,
Miles
right?
Perkins.
That was the time where you expanded your friendship group, and I did the same thing. And I think it was shitty that we got into it. It's always shitty when you get in a fight, man, but that's part of friendship. But I think it made us better people and helped us in many ways because we both expanded our friendship base. And, you know, we both have a lot of friends and homies. Some of them are the same, but we have a lot of individual ones.
Really now remembering that we had kind of 2 seasons of our friendship. Yeah. One was this really much earlier from 6th grade, and then 7th grade we had this fight, and as I now remember, and then 8th grade we really played on a baseball team, but in 6th grade we were actually on a baseball team and won a championship together, didn't we?
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Jim Hart Construction.
Shout out. We had a great team.
How great was that team, man?
That was an amazing team.
Look back, the talent we had on that team was hella good, man.
Yeah, we didn't even get any coaching. Not one speck of coaching. It was all talent. We literally
Jim Hart, man.
No, Jim Hart. I don't remember him giving us a coach tip, but I do remember him organizing and taking us and piling us into a car and taking us the VW bus. And we kicked people's ass. We were killing fools.
Mason McDuffie, which was supposed to be this great team, wasn't in our league, but we would play them. Wasn't he when, who was it? What was his name? Was his name Duffy?
Duffy.
Pitched for Mason McDuffie.
Yeah.
And he was no match for guys like Ruben. I would never want to get on the wrong side of Ruben.
No.
And I got to know Ruben much better as we grew up because of basketball. And I was super lucky. And Ruben is like an amazing man. Amazing.
Wow. Do you keep in touch?
I haven't seen him in a long time.
Sure.
But the last time I did, and going through high school basketball with Ruben, because he had a kid in high school, man. And
oh, really? Wow, I didn't know that.
He was a man, dude.
Yeah.
And the partial bit of the football season that I did play, he was playing football first time that year too. And Ruben was Ruben was like the most loyal guy you'll ever meet, man. And he had this persona, but he was also super smart, man. Ruben was hella smart.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was living, because he wasn't like spending most of his time in Berkeley. He was growing up in East Oakland.
Okay, yeah.
So he had to be tough, man.
Yeah.
But there was so many guys on that team, and I remember I was lucky to be on that team. I don't know, the first day of tryouts for Jim Hart Construction, right? It was a 2-day tryout. A bunch of us spent the night at my house the night before. I know Greg Sanders was there. I know you were there. I know Tony Woods was there. I know Brad was there. Can't remember who else. Maybe Andrew. I don't know. But and so the first day I didn't play that well. I was super nervous, right? And the second day I didn't even go.
Really?
Yes.
You avoided it.
I avoided it. I was like, I don't want to play anyway, blah, 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 like that, right? And I remember I was in my backyard, and I think I was throwing the tennis ball up against the side of the house and catching it, you know, and Brad yelled out from the other side of the fence. He was like, why the hell didn't you go, man? And I was like, I don't know, I just didn't want to, blah, blah, blah. You know, how I get like moody and shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
He was like, what the hell, man? Because he wanted me on the team. But Jim had already made the team. But it turns out Darren Miner, our man D Miner.
Oh my God.
I'm talking about a homie. That was my guy, man.
That dude's the funniest guy I think I ever had.
Yeah, we had a great relationship.
I still have catchphrases that I say that are Darren Miner's catchphrases.
So Darren Miner was actually, his birthday just missed, right?
So he was too young or too old or?
Too old.
Okay.
Like a week.
Right.
And they were having problems getting his birth certificate or something like that, right? And so he couldn't play on the team. And so there was a spot open Brad heard about it. Brad said there might be some situation with D minor, and if he can't play, then you're on the team. My dad said you're on, and so I was like, I'm going to do it. As I'm nervous of all those guys because all those guys were better.
Yeah, everybody was better than us, everybody was better than me. I was definitely the worst person on that team.
No, you were a better hitter.
Was I?
Hit back then, man. I could not hit. You could hit. I couldn't hit, dude. I was garbage. At that point, I could field because my dad would just hit me grounders.
Oh my God, I want to talk about that.
Yeah. I could field, but I couldn't hit a lick. So I was nervous. I was like, all these guys that played baseball for Pacific Supply before or somewhere else. I had never played organized baseball. So that was part of it. I was scared. But I was determined, man. And I remember when I did make that team, and I my first at bat, the first pitch I got, the ball was literally above my head, and I fucking swung at it. And our practice game at San Pablo Park, and everybody was talking hellish shit. Tony Woods, Brad, everybody's like, damn, what the hell, what the fuck?
Totally.
And so every day from then on, I would swing my bat, practice it, swing 50 times in my driveway and hit a part of the hedge. And so
yes,
I was determined to become a hitter at some point.
You were always one to break down the skills of a sport skill and practice the sort of menial task of just what you were describing. I remember your forearms rotating over the bat. Like, I just have a vivid memory of that, of you swinging that 50 times. And you also did that with a basketball, and you showed me that technique.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm glad I'm the type of person who loves to practice, man.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not unathletic, but I'm not like, a athletic god or something like that.
Fun. Yeah.
But I love to practice and always have. And that's what, I wasn't good enough to get by on talent, man. I had to practice more than anybody else. And maybe Lonnie practices dribbling more than me, but I don't know anybody who I've ever met, who practiced shooting more than I did. Ever.
Definitely.
I've never met anybody.
Definitely. I agree.
I think I spent a large portion of my childhood and adolescence shooting baskets.
So
here's my number one activity altogether.
Yep. And I remember, Rich, in high school, we had not been necessarily friends, but we were in one class together, and it was a public speaking class. Do you remember this? You taught us all. Everybody was supposed to teach something, and you taught us the best practices of shooting a basketball and broke down the arm angles and the way you hold the ball and how your left hand is just a guide, and if you're right-handed, and that your right-handed needs to be square. And I remember, I still to this day, if I shoot a basketball, I use that technique.
Other people do in the class too. Mike Simpson said the same thing, and so did Mark Conway.
That's amazing.
In that class too. And that class was transformative for me.
Really?
Because it was a public speaking class. And, I was hella shy, man.
Yeah.
Hella shy. And I was so reticent to look foolish. I never, ever, ever, ever wanted to look foolish or have somebody be able to open up to attack me,
Right.
But after that, I never really had any issue with like public speaking. And it's a huge, coaching, which is a big part of my life, is it's almost all public speaking.
Definitely.
You have to be able to get a message across in a way that people are hearing you and get your knowledge to someone else. And that's what public speaking is. It's getting your knowledge across to other people, right? And the only reason why I took that class is because Mr. Kaneko was like, dude, you're not going to graduate. You need to take this fucking class. And so he was like, dude, I know Kaneko and I would talk all the time. And he's the only reason why I graduated high school is because he was.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have failed. I wouldn't have graduated.
So I want to talk about that a little bit because this is what actually was curious about it, because you were always a really good student. I remember I asked to hang out with you on a Saturday one day, and you said no, and we were in like 6th or 7th grade, 7th, 8th grade, and you said, no, I have to spend the day taking the SATs.
Yeah, man, that was 8th grade.
8th grade. And I was like, first of all, what is the SAT? I had no idea. Second of all, we're not even in high school yet. And you told me, and to this day, I remember this, my parents said you can take the SAT as many times and take the highest one. So they want me to take it as early as 8th grade. And I was like, that's the kind of family Rich has.
Yeah, I was really lucky in that regard, man, because I don't think I would have gone to college. I don't think I would have been able to get into college if I hadn't improved my SAT score over the time. Because, man, my GPA in high school was like 2.2, less than 2.5, straight up.
And why do you think that was?
I never did homework. I was tired, man. I was tired because I had practice. It was soccer, basketball, baseball.
Yep.
I practiced, man, every day of the school year.
Yeah.
You know? And so I was tired, and I would rather watch sports, read about sports, and play sports than do my homework. And I was a really good note taker. I was a good note taker in class. And I was a good test taker, but homework, and you know, that's the thing. You can't get good grades in high school. You can learn the material, but you can't get good grades in high school if you don't do the homework. So that's always kind of, to me, a little fucked up.
It is.
Thing about our education system. Are we trying to learn the material, or are we trying to learn how to study? And what is learning how to study? Is it doing rote shit every night? Or is it grasping the information that is supposed to be given?
And it's still going on today. You know, it's still going on.
You still need to do your homework.
No. I mean, but yeah, and the criticism is still there. You know, actually now we have much more data that homework doesn't actually help children learn, and we still the educational system. You know, my children just launched themselves, and my daughter did her homework and my son didn't. And thus they're going to very different educational environments. First of all, I didn't do homework either. I cheated basically my way through high school. But when my son got to high school, you know, they have these school loops where you see if they've turned in anything or not. And I would check them occasionally, and I would see, oh my God, you haven't turned in anything for the last month. And I would get on him, and we would have these fights, and it would be totally terrible. And he was really smart, but he was also playing a lot of sports and tired. And anyhow, the story goes that we got him into therapy, and he had anxiety stuff too. And I actually told the therapist, like, I put my arm around him, and the therapist was like, tell me about your relationship, you and your kid. And I was like, this is my guy, man. We have such a positive relationship if we're not dealing with school. And I said, can I just ask you a question? Is my positive relationship with this kid more important than me getting on him to do his homework? And she looked square me in the eye and said, your positive relationship is way more important than it is for him to do his homework. And I was like, that was my marching order. I didn't actually go into homework. I didn't criticize him for not doing anything. I focused completely on the relationship. And to this day, it was the best decision I had ever made for my kid.
Yeah, man, I have to say, you're pretty lucky to have had, you're fortunate, it's not lucky. I think you're fortunate that you took advantage of that awareness that you had. Because, yeah, that's a lot of friction between me and my sons. Granted, there's a ton of other friction between me and my sons, but when I was in contact with both of them, that was a huge conflict in different ways with each one, because for different reasons. But yeah, man, that's a super challenge as a parent, man.
It really is. We're given this message that we're not good parents if we don't make our kids do their homework and make sure that they, by any means necessary, do well in school. And I am completely in another camp now based on my 2 experiences with my 2 kids who, personality-wise, they needed different things. And I probably failed them both miserably in many areas, but I think I did that one thing right with Ellery.
That's we're blinded as parents by that social norm, right? And it's creates a lot of rifts between parents and kids. Like any parent, we fuck up, man. There's no. Yeah, you might have thought my parents were perfect.
Yeah,
but
I did.
They weren't.
No, I know
they weren't at all, and they tried their best. Their best was pretty friggin' good, though.
Yeah, your parents were so important to me, Rich, and I want to talk a little bit about it. Your mom came from Atlanta, and I came from Atlanta. So I immediately felt connected to your mom. She had a Southern accent, and I knew that it was like a sense of familiarity and connection to her. Your home itself was beautiful. It was the kind of home I wanted to live in. It had, your mom would bake cakes.
Yeah, she would.
There was cookies. There was all kinds of food. And boy, did I like food. I like sweets.
Too, huh?
Oh my God, we ate a lot of ice cream. And your dad, to this day, I'm so appreciative of your father. He gave me a father image of what it is to be the best kind of father. My father was a good guy, but he never taught me sports and he didn't participate in the sports, and I was all about sports. So your dad, as the person who took us outside and played basketball with us, he would pitch baseballs to us for hours.
Yeah, he loved that shit, man.
He was amazing. The things that I appreciate so much are that when you guys were going to a baseball game, father and son baseball game, Chandler was welcome.
You were always welcome. And you, without question, man, you were part of the family at that time.
My God.
And even my sister acknowledged that you were part of the family, right?
That's funny because I have very little memories of your sister, except for her just being kind of judgmental of us. I don't have a lot of memories because she was much older than us, and we were insular. We were just focusing on each other, and she could have been there or not. It didn't actually matter to us. We didn't care about her at that point.
Unlike your sister.
Right.
Because your sister was huge for me too, man.
Interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, the thought of sitting with my sister's friends and learning to sing in the still of the night.
Wow.
Come on, man, that never would happen. But I remember sitting in your living room with your sister's, like, I guess her chorus friends, or
yeah, she was a big pad, performing arts department.
Exactly. And we're sitting there, and you and I, and they incorporated us in learning how to sing a harmonized version of In the Still of the Night. And that song still is like super special to me.
Show dope and show be dope. Show dope and show be dope. Music education was more important actually than academic education in our family somehow.
Yeah, my son's involved with music as well. He's now the associate concert master, and just last week he won the concerto competition. So he's now going to be the soloist for their next concert.
That's amazing.
He's fully ingrained in the Berkeley music scene.
Beautiful.
So, I mean, that's such a huge, great thing that Berkeley has, that tradition.
It's a big part of the Berkeley experience and what I would call the us story of Berkeley. We are the kind of people that listen to jazz music and appreciate and have very famous people that are jazz musicians that come from our area,
Absolutely. Shout out Josh Redmond. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I remember the moment where I realized I have no business playing an instrument. In 7th grade, the jazz band with Mr. Hardiman, right?
Yeah, shout out Mr. Hardiman.
First concert, Josh got up and did his solo, right? And it's in Willard, and he got up and did his first solo in the first concert, and I'm sitting there as a clarinet right next to him playing the sax, and I'm going, I have no business being on this stage with this man.
Totally.
I need to go play some hoop. I don't know if you remember this, but in 8th grade, orchestra practice was right before school.
Yes. Right? 0 period.
And at the same time, every day before school at Willard, there would be a hoop game going on.
Right.
Every day there would be a good hoop game going on right in front of the band entrance, right?
Yep.
That first court.
The music building. Yep, I remember that.
And about I don't know, maybe a third of the way into school, I was like, I want to go hoop, man.
Yeah.
And I stopped going.
I think we start to become really individual in our middle school and maybe even before that, but we start to take a lot of risks about the kind of people we're practicing being people at that point, and we're taking risks and figuring out what kind of people are we going to be, what identity am I. That's middle school, right? That's the middle school experience. And we borrow from other people. We take a lot of risks. We try things on for size. A lot of them work and a lot of them don't. You may remember this story about the Cubs. It's one of the ones that sticks out. So I'm 5 foot 185. I have my Cubs uniform, and I've said on this podcast before that I loved uniforms because when I put on a uniform, it made me.
That was my first baseball uniform too.
It was a beautiful uniform, man. It was beautiful. It was white with those blue and red stripes. Yeah. And I felt a part of an amazing group, right? I felt a part of the team. And I was a first baseman. I learned how to play pretty good first base. I was a good fielder because of your dad. I was a decent hitter because of your dad. And I was fat. And I wasn't very fast. So this one day.
Good hitter, man. You were a good hitter.
I was.
I don't know if you hit home runs, but you would hit at some kind of extra base hits, the first 3 or 4 times you came up, right? And it was kind of a close game for the first time ever, right? And it was late in the game, and you came up. And they intentionally walked you. It was either they walked in a run or they loaded the bases.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yep.
And I remember my dad yelling out at the game. He was like, yeah, they don't want no part of you. And I can't believe they do something so that stupid. I remember my dad yelling.
That's great.
Come on, man. I remember that forever, man. That was this guy is freaking Barry Bonds.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Straight up Barry Bonds situation. And I've never seen that ever happen to anybody
in Little League
since then until Barry Bonds.
That's crazy. That same game, Pirates game, I hear from the outfield from Eric Price, who's a year older than us.
Oh, shit.
You
Price.
Throw it right down the middle. He's a fat girl. So they actually pitched to me. And I stroked the ball over Eric's head, and the whole crowd cheers, and I'm running around the bases as fast as I can because it's basically a home run. But because I'm slow and kind of overweight, well, pretty overweight, I get to third base, and everybody's both laughing because I'm so slow and because I, totally hit the ball over Eric Price's head. And so I'm both excited but also demoralized. But I'll just say I fucking love Eric Price these days. I literally have an amazing experience with him right now, but I've told him that story and I always make him feel guilty about it.
And I just want to mention, you played first base with that mitt that we all chipped.
Oh God, that's such a beautiful story, dude. You totally gave me a mitt. Thank you.
So it wasn't just me.
No, it was the whole team, like all of our group. You guys pitched in and gave me a mitt. That's happened to me a couple times in my life. That was the first.
That was cool. He became the Cubs coach. And he was the only coach who actually wore the fucking Cubs uniform. I got to give him now. I got to give him some slack. That was hella funny.
He liked uniforms too.
Yeah. So we became friends as a teammate, and we became friends as rival managers.
I love the fact that our hometown people, you can actually have these. I mean, I couldn't have hated anybody more in that moment than I hated Eric Price. And the fact that we have lived a life long enough where now I can say I love Eric Price. I've had dinner with him recently in the last couple months with Chrissy and I and his wife. It's amazing experience to go through life and to have seasons of people that you've known for a long time and that you've either had really good friendships and then don't like them or hate them and then become really great friends. That's kind of an amazing, unique experience. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, there was a guy who, when I tried out for the basketball team at Berkeley High, it was in 11th grade for varsity. And man, you know, what I did to make that varsity team in 11th grade, I had no business making that team, man.
Wow.
I worked so hard. I went to friggin' basketball camp with Ivan Mum.
Yep.
We went to John Wooden basketball camp. Ivan and I worked hella hard to make that team.
Right.
But during tryouts, there was this guy who, Spencer Stevens, and he transferred into Berkeley High. And during tryouts, he didn't know me, and he tried to punk me, man. He's like, who's this little white kid? And everybody else knew I could play, and everybody else gave me a modicum of respect. They still tried to punk me, but I was still rich to them. But this guy was like, this guy's nothing, right?
Right.
And I wasn't having it, man. I was not having it. And he was bigger and tougher than me, without question. He's an Oakland kid, right?
Yep.
But we went at it.
Wow.
We didn't fight like fisticuffs.
Yeah.
But we pushed each other.
The comp. You were competitive.
We were going at it, right? And after that, when we both made the team, dude, we were teammates. And I still in contact with him. That was just a perfect example of exactly what you're talking about, man, is that, yes, you can be fucking enemies, dude. And because I was with Eric too. I fucking hated that dude when he played for the Pirates, dude. I hated him. And Darren used to say he's actually really cool.
I was not hearing Eric Price was cool at that time. At that time, I was not allowing any part of it.
He had punked you and he had tried to slam me. And so he's a double no-go.
Yep, at that point.
When we became teammates, this dude's fucking one of the coolest guys ever.
Well, it's so funny. If you're a Warriors fan, now you're dealing with the same thing with Chris Paul, right? We've hated Chris Paul forever. Now we're on the same team. Now all of that doesn't matter anymore.
Growing up, when and where we did and how we did gives us a unique perspective on growth. And being able to adapt to like any situation, man. Because we were thrown into the fire in our generation in Berkeley. We were thrown in there. And you could either escape, some people through drugs and alcohol, some people through just becoming recluses and not involved in the social scene whatsoever, or you could swim. Right. And there are varying degrees of swimming for sure and being part of the group. Definitely. But I think both you and I never would have done it. I don't know about never, but you were a huge part in incorporating me into that. you know?
Wow.
And absolutely, man. I mean, I'd had friends before, and I had different friends, but like I would never have told, excuse me, I would never have told any of my other friends who I liked as a girl. No way. Hell no. Because that would have made me vulnerable.
Right.
I was rich, baseball, basketball, soccer player. That's what I was. And pickup football player. That's who I was to them, you know? But to you, and they might have known who my family was, but they didn't know my family.
There's a couple other stories that I want to tell, but one of the stories is that I went off to Maryland in ninth grade to live with my dad. I had never lived with him before, and I always wanted to live with him, and we were making this big change over.
It was great, man. That was so cool. I thought you were so brave.
Yeah, well, I had a mixed year. I really enjoyed living with my father. He was a really good parent. But I went to the school that I had no friends at, and very different than Berkeley, very suburban Maryland. White people, black people didn't hang out. I got on the baseball team. I actually made the baseball team, and I lost 50 pounds over that year. I came back a totally different body type. And you guys sent me a couple great tapes that were tape recorded letters, and it made me feel such a sense of belonging that I was not going to miss that. And that's why I came back to Berkeley and lived with a parent that I didn't actually think was very good. I didn't really want to be living with my mom, but I came back to Berkeley specifically to return to you guys and my friends, who I felt such a sense of belonging and connected, and I wasn't going to miss Berkeley High.
Oh man, I was so happy when you came back. You know, because that was when both the schools, the Northsiders and the Southsiders, the whole city. If you were in ninth grade, you went to West Campus, unless you were at the alternative school. And so, man, and I had finally blossomed socially the year before in eighth grade. Finally,
right.
I didn't know where I was going to fit in at that school, man, because it seemed like all my social group had just disappeared. And there were days, Andrew Delaney became like my best friend then, but he was already best friends with Dominic, and he was playing soccer with Dominic, so he spent most of his time with Dominic. And yeah, I was still friends with Andrew Deans-Fry. And of course, Darren, but Darren had just jumped in, man. And you know how Darren is, man. He's a special cat. He's unafraid to make friends. He's very, at that age, and plus he was popular with the girls.
He was good looking.
He got a girlfriend that year.
Yeah.
And so he spent a lot of time with her that year. So I was kind of alone, man, you know. But basketball gave me an identity.
Yeah.
It gave me somewhere to go and something to do. I had loved basketball growing up. I loved hoop growing up. But in ninth grade, I was like, okay, basketball at Berkeley High is this is what I want to do in life. I want to be part of this community, because basketball at Berkeley High is unlike anywhere, maybe McClymonds, maybe, but everywhere else, it's the pinnacle, man. It is, and it has such a tradition. And I'd seen parts of it growing up, but I wanted to be it, man. This is what I want to be, a B-Town Hooper. And so I became part of that team. And that team, I pulled the same thing I did at Jim Hart Construction. I tried out, and then I got sick. The last 2 days of tryouts. And so I didn't make the team. But the coach recognized me. He saw that I was good. And he told Darren, he said, "What happened to Rich? Where did he go?" And Darren was like, "He got sick, and so you didn't make the team." And the coach was like, "You need to tell him to come back." And I was, and I came back, and that's how I, became friends with Henry and Terry. Henry's that's like my brother, man.
Yeah.
Because I spent so much time with him throughout high school.
I want to tell a story about Henry Whitmore. And it brings us into our adult life. I'll tell two short ones. We were partying a lot together. in our 20s. And he came over one night and we had a big party. And I think the next day he had slept over. Everybody was drunk. So a lot of people slept over. And I had been living in the Woolsey house, which was this big boarding house that the DeJombry house. And the next day I was like, Hank, you got to go because I got to go and help my sister move her house. She was moving and I needed to go. And he's like, oh, I don't got anything to do. I'll come help. And he spent 10 hours with me moving my sister. My sister did not pick up one piece of furniture. Henry and I picked up every single piece of furniture, boxed everything out, did the whole thing together. I think she took us to lunch. That was it. Like, this was my sister, and he dedicated his whole day just to be with me and to move my sister. That's the kind of guy Henry was. Fast forward, I've got my middle school son. I'm walking to Willard High School, and we see this guy coming down the street on the sidewalk without a shirt, in a dress, talking to himself. And we pass by him, and I kind of look at him, and I'm like, I recognize him, and somehow he recognizes me. And he's talking to himself, and then all of a sudden, he says, Chan. And I said, Hen. And he's like, what's up, man? How you doing? Is this your son? And my son, Ellery, looks up and leans into me. And I was like, yeah, this is Ellery. Ellery, this is Henry. And he puts out his hand and they shake hands. And then he says, well, have a good day. And I was like, have a good day. And he starts walking down the street and starts talking to himself again.
Yeah.
And Ellery looked at me and he said, Dad, who's that? And I said, that's Henry Whitmore. He was a good friend of mine. And he was the best athlete in my high school.
I had the exact same experience with Henry and my younger son. Both my sons.
Wow.
Both my sons have met Henry in the exact same circumstance.
That's amazing.
During the pandemic was, I went through I was in bad shape in the pandemic. Really a lot of reasons. And I heard that Henry was actually clean at one point. And he was staying at that house on Bonita, which is it's kind of like SLE. And they wrote him a letter. And I went and I delivered it to him. I didn't see him, but I delivered it to the house. And we reconnected because we share there's a lot of similarities with the two of us, man. And as far as hardship is concerned. And which maybe a lot of people heard rumors about and whatever, but I am who I am, and I've gone through what I've gone through, and I'm not the same person that I was a year ago. I'm not. I've been clean and sober for over a year, and I have struggled mightily and hurt virtually everyone in my life. And from my own actions, and
from addiction, yeah, and all the ramifications of it, the dishonesty, the lying, the cheating, the stealing, all of that. And I was, I was homeless on the streets in the Tenderloin, living in the Tenderloin. Oh my God!
And I was a homeless criminal on the streets, and I had ruined the relationships with everybody. I missed the death of my father because of my struggles, man. My dad fell and was in a semi-coma for months. And I was actually in rehab when he fell. And so I couldn't go see him. And when I got out, I had wrecked my family situation so bad that they wouldn't let me go see him in the hospital. And then it turns out, my sister calls me and says, you need to say goodbye to your dad. And he's about to die. Calls me on the phone. And I was like, can I just come see him? And I raced down, and I was about 20 minutes away. And I raced down on my bike down Broadway. pedaling furiously to get to Kaiser. And when I get there, I have to wait in the lobby for like 5 minutes. And by the time I get up to the room, he had died 10 minutes before. I'd done all this stuff, man, that was just so destructive to me and everybody else in my life. That's still part of me. It will always be part of me. But I don't have to act on that. Positive things, you know. I've had a lot of support getting there, but it's a daily process. But what I'm trying to get at is Henry shares that with me. We share that, and you know, mental health and addiction, the destructive nature of both of those, and that's what I talked about in that letter. Of course, the brotherhood that we share together was unbreakable. I was like, dude, I got all this stuff going on too, just like you, man. That's the kind of guy Henry is. Now, that's not all he is, unfortunately. Unfortunately, there's another part of him. And I hope one day he's able to get the same kind of relief that I have now. I love that man.
I don't think I would have been the kind of friend that I have been to other people. I don't think I would have been as liked as I am, and I don't think I would have liked or understood or trusted friendship if I hadn't had you in my life.
I think so. I know that's the case for me, personally. And the fact that we didn't like have some kind of fuck you moment, which happens with a lot of friendships.
It does.
You know? It just was like, okay, we were there for each other when we both really fucking needed it in different ways. We continued cordially and still, what's up, homie? All that kind of shit. We grew. It's not like we grew apart. We just continued to grow as ourselves. And we were so fortunate, man. You know, looking back, it was unlike anywhere else. And when I went away to school, I'm sure when you went to fucking Maryland, you were like, man, this is cool and all, but this ain't, fuck, let me tell you about my place.
Totally. You know? I was always so proud of it. So proud of Berkeley.
Those guys used to make fun of me in college for saying hella. They used to kill me for saying hella. Now, they all say hella.
Everybody says hella.
Everybody says hella. That's us. We spread that shit. Us.
Berkeley leads in so many ways.
I remember you were the first person to be able to recite Eighth Wonder. You were lucky in the explosion of hip hop too.
Oh yeah,
that was a big part of my growing up.
Yeah. Oh, listening to hip hop is like, again, just, it's still part of my life. I got to interview Chris Berger on this podcast, and hopefully we'll put him out. And I'm looking forward to actually other rappers coming on.
Chris Berger, my son, he doesn't really rap anymore. He still is involved with music, but he was a huge mentor to my son as a rapper. I remember my son's second, not his first concert, his second concert he did with Mac Mall, and Chris was there supporting him.
One of the things why he's so talented is because he's completely vulnerable on stage. He tells you the story about his life, about all, as you say, warts and all. And he says on this pod how addicted he was to alcohol, which led to crack, which led to meth, because that was the most efficient drug that brought you to that place where you were when you're looking to get high.
That particular drug is so insidious, you know. Yes, addiction is addiction. However, that particular drug, it will destroy. Its life mission is to destroy. That's what it does.
It's actually evil.
Part of the reason why I'm in recovery is because I've been in AA and had long periods of sobriety before, and I'd done NA, which was also super helpful. But I never found my recovery community until I became a part of CMA. And because being able to relate to people about that uniqueness that you were talking about has saved me.
What's CMA? Remind us.
Crystal Meth Anonymous. And, I'm able to, I share my story, you know. I go to my old rehab, and I'm an alumni speaker many times, and I I'm the lead chair at meetings now, and I've learned a lot. It's a daily process, man. It's only, it literally is one day at a time. Who would have thought I would have gone to the places and done the things and been where I was, man? It's just it's what happens when you're dishonest. For me, it was my character defect that just killed me, man, was dishonesty with myself and with other people. I had this persona for many different areas, but none of them, there was a little bit of me in all these personas, but none of them was my authentic self, man. And it took a long time to get to my authentic self, but I am now finally. And unfortunately, there's a lot of wreckage that I caused, not just for me, mainly for the people, everyone around me, Chan, everyone. And maybe some of those relationships can be fixed one day. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee.
No.
And there's definitely no guarantee that things are going to happen the way that I want them to.
Right. We don't have control.
No control. Maybe if I keep doing what I'm doing every single day, things can work out. Maybe not the way that I want, but maybe work out. There's no guarantee, but there is one 100% guarantee, is that if I go back to doing that, there's no hope. No hope. There absolutely, there's only two results. I will die, I'll get sick and die, or I will be murdered. And that's what happens when I'm out. People want to murder me. Why would I want to murder me, man? I'm a pretty nice guy.
You're a really nice guy.
I have a tendency for people who want to shoot me. And that's what happens.
Wow.
Get in there. That shit is fucking, that shit is scandalous, man.
Yeah.
I got ensconced in that drama and violence. And because it's a violent world in Oakland, in San Francisco, Vallejo, San Jose, those places, and the people I was with in those places, you took one look at me and say, what the fuck is that dude doing there?
God, I'm so happy to hear that you're talking to me about this and you have this experience, because you're right. I did hear a lot of rumors, and I have heard a lot of things, and I didn't know, and I'm glad that you're telling me this story, because it does sound authentic. And, when we, as a psychologist and someone who has also lied a lot, we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to protect a certain identity, and we don't share our authentic selves because we think we will be judged. And judgment is such a challenging emotion or challenging experience.
Yeah, you're open to rejection and being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And, that's just part of life, man. Sometimes you're going to be the judger and separate, and sometimes you're going to be the judged and be dissed. And sometimes it's going to work out, and sometimes it's not. I have tremendous amounts of regret and guilt and shame for the things that I've done and the people that I've hurt who had nothing but the best intentions and love for me. That's all they did. That's all they wanted, was to help me and be part of my life and be good parts of my life. But my dishonesty and my unwillingness, selfish unwillingness to be honest and just be my authentic self, has caused so much damage to other people, man. I'm a survivor, and I'm a hell of a lot tougher than I ever thought I was because of the shit that I went through. I could tell you some horror stories, Chan. Seriously, I really could. And it just they would blow your fucking mind. But I survived them, man. I did. And part of the reason is because the way we grew up, man. I learned some survival skills at Malcolm X and Willard and Berkeley High that served me well when I was on the streets. I tell you that. Served me well. But I made it through. And unfortunately, part of the result of me making it through was all the damage that I did to all these friendships, man. And there aren't many left, I have to say. And I had a lot of resentment about that for a long time because, why can't you just help me because I'm sick or I'm in trouble or I'm just this, I'm just that. I had a lot of resentments about that. But the fact is that if I hadn't been fucking up and lying, none of this shit would have happened. None of the damage would have happened if I had just been honest and not been a fucking addict. That's just the point blank. I had lots of friends and acquaintances and people who would love me and do anything for me and be there for me 100%. But I blew it, man.
Because the addiction makes you think that that's more, the substance is more important than these relationships, yes?
Absolutely. I've never met anybody who had the extensive lies that I had, ever. I've never met anybody who was able to maintain that front for as long as I did, extensively as I did, ever. Being in and out of recovery now for the past 2.5 years intensively, I've been in contact with a lot of people, man, with a lot of issues. But when I say the shit that I did, without fail, it's always, wow. And I'm not proud of it. And I always knew, Chan, that there would be someday a comeuppance. I knew it. I knew I can't get away with this shit forever. I can't do it. The lies were so extensive.
It must be exhausting to live that way.
Yeah, it was definitely. And there's that weight of those lies upon lies has now shifted. Yes, that weight is gone, but now there's the weight of guilt and shame and remorse of all this shit, all the people that I hurt. I had this huge ball of lies and dishonesty on my back, and that dropped off and became this other one. But there's only one way through that, is by recovery. That's the only way that can be dealt with. Maybe not lifted, but dealt with. You gotta deal with it head on.
You do.
Step work, sponsor work, being part of a home group, and being of service. And that's what I am now.
I love it.
I love service. I'm the house manager at a SLE out here in Sacramento. And I have 9 or 10 people in my house. And it's the same, it's affiliated with the same rehab program that I went to. And so this is, I'm of service fucking every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a long journey.
Yeah. I have a little guilt and shame myself, Rich, because when we were in 7th grade, we started drinking together. And we stole alcohol from your parents' alcohol closet.
Yes, we did. Yeah. And sometimes we refilled it. Right?
With water.
We made those that special punch.
The special punch.
Special punch before we went to a party or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
We got heated. And it was so much fun. But yet
fun.
It can lead to more. And
I am a more, always more kind of guy when it comes to that. Because it took a while for that occasional binge to lead to this is my shit. Yeah, and I wouldn't say I was a heavy drinker in high school, but I drank. And I got drunk several times really badly with consequences. I remember I missed that North Side, South Side football game because I was so hungover. I actually remember the night where my addiction started, where I became, this is my shit. We lost in the state semifinal against Bishop O'Dowd at the Coliseum. And it was a Friday night, I think. And we were convinced. We were up by 14 points in the fourth quarter. We lost that game. It was devastating for everybody. And I remember I went to the frats and got hammered. This was like, okay, I don't want to feel this way anymore.
Right.
I want to feel something else. Nothing.
Right.
And that was where I can, you know, a lot of people like, I don't know what happened. Maybe I used to drink, blah, blah, blah. I can pinpoint the night.
It's amazing.
I became an addict. And within 2 weeks, Tom had taken over the Oaks. He wasn't the coach before my first year, but he became my coach for my senior year for the Oaks. And he was like, you're going to be my third baseman, and you're going to hit fifth every game. And I'm like, yeah, finally. Because I had gone up and down in the lineup the year before with Tom. But the night before our first game, which was a doubleheader, I got drunk and high, and I didn't even show up to the game. I was a no-show for the opening doubleheader where I was supposed to be the starting third baseman hitting fifth.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was within 2 weeks. So I had gone from sports are my life, I will do everything for it, no matter what, to I don't care really about much. Yeah. And because I wanted to feel different.
You know, you're saying it so articulately that it's a human experience to not want to feel pain, to not suffer, and anything that can actually help us do that is extremely attractive. And it's a game changer to have these experiences that take the pain away quickly, and we can rely on them.
It worked for me. It did. You know, that was my solution, right? That was my solution to both feeling frustrated socially, to not being able to connect intimately, and feeling frustrated as far as my future in sports. I saw my future in sports fading. I had 2 different scholarship offers, but my grades weren't good enough, and they fucking both dropped me. And I'm like, everything's like fading away. And so I was like, I know where I can go and have a great time. Arizona State. Yeah, we can have hell of fun there. And I went there, and their basketball team dissolved that year, their freshman year.
Really?
They had like 5 guys quit because of the coach.
Oh, shit.
And then they had 2 other guys who had season-ending injuries, right? And so I was playing all the time. I came early in the summer, played all summer, and I was playing with all the good players, you know, at the gym. And so me and I had 4 super close homies in my dorm. And we were all like, shit, man, we should fucking try out. Because 2 of the guys had played on the state championship team in LA. We started hooping every day. And then the partying started, man. And once the partying started, I just dropped. And I didn't even fucking try out. And I was going to try out. I didn't even fucking try out. And this guy, Mike, who was like the worst out of all of us, he fucking made the team. I flunked out, of course.
Wow.
That's when I became a daily weed smoker, you know, and party as often as possible. I came back, flunked out, ended up getting a house with Victor Nimichi, and Dave Ramstead. And it was down in the hood, man. And all I was doing was playing hoop. That's all I did. I played hoop, smoked weed, get drunk, maybe get high. And I met up with Myron. So he was a teammate of mine at Berkeley High. And he had been in touch with the coach at DVC. And he was like, and we met up, and he's like, Rich, I'm going to go play at DVC. You should come out. We should play on the same team. We'll be fucking dominating. I know the coach. He's good. He's already said I can make the team. If you're my boy, he'll play, right? So I was playing with Myron, training with Myron occasionally. Right after school started, Myron was in a car with Rico, and they got involved in a road rage incident, and Myron was murdered. That killed me, man. You know, I struggled with Myron's death for a long time, man, along with many other people, because Myron was a great guy, was special. He was crazy as fuck. But, I mean, we was ready to snap at any moment, but he was down. When he was down for you, he was 150% down for you. And he was down for me.
Wow.
And I ended up, it just like fucking dropped out of DVC and ended up going back to ASU and flunking out again. But
wow.
Yeah, so when Myron was done, I was like, there's no more dreams of sports. I'm not going to ever follow that dream that I had forever.
When I asked on the questionnaire, who do you admire? You told that you wrote a beautiful message about Vic Namucci, about someone who stood in for you and took a notice of you and was kind to you. Would you end with that story?
Sure, absolutely, man. So I've known Vic. I call him Omar. That's his middle name because his dad's name's Vic. So all his family calls him Omar. And that's my guy, man. Omar is, I don't have a friend. I've never had a friend like Omar. I've been friends with Omar since West Campus. He's a year older than me. He was friends with Aaron. We became very close. We were on the same soccer team when I was in 9th grade. And so we got even closer then, but we became very close when I was a senior and he was a freshman at Cal. We started going to the frats together every Thursday and Friday night. And so that became my road dog, you know? And we had some crazy times, the two of us, just wild, you know? And then we lived together and went through a very tough but exciting year living together in West Oakland in the crack era. That was when the crack era exploded. And we were right there in the fucking hood. And so really, really, really strong friendship, right? And for both of us. And we both know each other's family very well. Since he went to Cal, my dad loved him, you know? Him and my dad would chop it up. I would chop it up with his dad, Papa Namucci, you know? Really great friends with his younger brother, Aaron. So stayed in contact always, right? But then when my life exploded, right? And I blew everything up, right? And my actions created this schism with all my friends and family. And that was pretty much it, man. And that was all my doing. I take total responsibility for all of it. I had a lot of resentment, like, fuck you guys, whatever. Because I asked for help sometimes and people said no. And I understand now. And I was just asking for help. I wasn't trying to rob them. But I was just asking for help. How the fuck would they know? You know? But Omar was always there. I never actually went to him for help, but I knew he was there. And so I hadn't gone back to Berkeley per se for, I don't know, 2 years, right? I was either running the streets in San Francisco and Oakland, or I was here in rehab or running the streets out here in Sacramento. And then when my dad died, it took about 6 or 8 months because of COVID for us to have his memorial service. And I wanted to go to his memorial service, but I was terrified. I wasn't sure they even were going to let me come to the memorial service. And it was at UC Berkeley at the faculty club, and it was a huge, big deal.
Yeah, he was a true rock star in his field.
Yeah, and he was, that shit was broadcast all over the world on YouTube, man, you know? But I brought a friend from rehab with me just to keep an eye on my crazy ass, because when I come back to the Bay, it had been a nightmare previously. But I I did say hello. My wife was awesome. She supported me there and was there for me. I said one sentence to my sister. I said one sentence to both my sons. That's the only sentence I've had with them, contact with them, for almost 3 years. But I didn't have my glasses on at one point, right? I was going to say goodbye to my wife before I went back to Sacramento. And she was there, and she was talking to some guy. And he was wearing a suit, he looked good, and he didn't have a beard. He was clean shaven. Now, Omar had a beard, and usually has a beard. But I didn't know who it was. And so I totally fucking ignored this guy. And it was Omar. And he did this one thing, man. He went like this to me. And that was like his shit, you know? The way he did it.
A little body language. You could see his body language, and that
was like,
reminded you.
Man, I reached out and I hugged Omar and started to cry and shit, you know? And he's like, I'm always here for you.
Wow.
Always here for you. Whatever you need, I don't care. And that man, granted, we don't talk all the time. I text him occasionally. Sometimes he texts me. But Lonnie texts me sometimes. But him and I have a special relationship because he's a doctor and he knows what I'm going through. And I told him everything previously. And but him and Omar are pretty much the only people. There's one other basketball guy. He's not from Berkeley, but he's from Piedmont. Those are the only guys from that huge network of people that I have any contact with, man. And it breaks my heart that I fucked all that shit up, man. That hometown friend stuff that you're talking about, that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Right? I think you do, and I hope you do. I hope you value what it is and the meaning of it and how valuable it is, because I don't have it anymore. I have little bits of it. I have memories, but they're bittersweet, because part of the greatness of those long-lasting friendships is, hey, remember back when, chopping it up and talking about your kids and what you're doing now and how your life has evolved. And I don't get to do that anymore. And not having that, man, yes, I've created new support systems because that's the kind of person I am. I do that. And a lot of that is because of our friendship early on. I learned so much from that. And I'm glad I have that. But I have lots of people, but I don't have everybody that I want anymore.
Thank you, Rich, for telling that story and for spending time today. This is exactly why I wanted to do this kind of project. We don't have a daily, weekly, even monthly or yearly relationship currently. But what you have meant to me and my life, when I look back on it, I don't know if I know for sure I wouldn't be the same person. And you gave me what I needed, which was confidence and security. And that gave me the opportunity to meet other people, to go to college, to become a psychologist, to grow up knowing that I had somebody in my life like you. And I am so loyal to you. And I'm sure I have disappointed you. I'm sure that I certainly haven't been there for you in those times. I am so happy that you have shared this honest thing with me and with other people. And I do think it's inspiring, and I admire you. And I'm so happy that we had the kind of friendship that we had, and I'm eternally grateful to you.
Me too, man. You know, honestly, Chan, this may sound hella corny, right? But I only wanted the best for you, man. I really did. And I went the basketball jock route, man. And that wasn't your route. And I was like, I'm glad he's got friends, man. And the friends that he has are good people. And so I was like, he's doing well. I'm glad he's doing well. And when you decided to go to Maryland, I was like, that's the best thing ever, dude. I was so happy when you decided to go to school in Maryland. That was just fucking perfect, dude. And I never held any resentment at all. I was just happy for you.
That's the mark of a good friend, isn't it, Rich? That we're happy for our friends, that we derive happiness from their success. That, to me, it's I've said it many times, and it's a mantra for me. There's a Sanskrit concept and word called mudita, and it means deriving pleasure and happiness from other people's success.
Yeah, and we learned that in our friendship early on, man. That's what I was talking about. A lot of people don't have that, but we did. Because we were both, neither one of us were trying to get over on the other person. I genuinely wanted you to have the family that you didn't have, and you genuinely wanted me to blossom. Well, you gave me pep talks and tips and all this shit all the time, man. You said, dude, you're a good guy. You're cool. Don't worry about this. Don't be afraid. And I needed somebody at that time to do that, man. And you needed somebody to do that. So I think we both learned to enjoy that in a friendship, man. And we were super great. We were super fortunate to have that, because a lot of friends, they don't learn that part of friendship,
Thanks for listening to Hometown Friends. This interview with Rich was pretty meaningful for me for many reasons. For one, Rich and my friendship was so long ago, but the significance of the time that we spent together and the ways we unconsciously helped each other was really pivotal to our psychological growth. I was also surprised that to have completely forgotten about significant moments in our friendship that he remembered vividly and described with great detail. And it's a great example of the collective memory that occurs when hometown friends get back together. And for me, having a friend like Rich with a stable and resourced family was the security that I needed at a critical developmental period. And I'm guessing they didn't even know how important this was for me. When I reflect on this, I see that I enjoyed a secure attachment to Rich's family and other friends' families over the years that helped me to launch into the next developmental stage. Of course, it's also heartbreaking to hear about all the negative consequences of Rich's addiction and his lifelong attempts to cope with his childhood trauma. I now see that our youthful conversations, where we did share some of our most vulnerable thoughts and feelings, did not include all the secrets that Rich was keeping from an early age. This is why Rich is sharing his story. He's lending his support to others in his recovery community so that together they learn new ways to experience and cope with the negative emotions, and that they support each other in the goal to stay clean and sober one day at a time. If you have an inspirational story about one of your hometown friends or an example of the way in which a friend's family has influenced you in your life, please send me a message and follow me on Instagram at Hometown Friends Pod. Those of you who just enjoy listening to the podcast, please feel free to give me some feedback about what you liked or disliked about it, or any topics or guests that you want to hear about. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, even if you just listen to it. I hope to see you next time on Hometown Friends.
We fall down, but we